I see him already.
Here,
Roll call.
Here, still roll call.
Yeah,
You know, well.
Brandon here, Jack Musgrove here, William Oswald president. So all board members are present, do have a quorum. You want to do any things from the previous meeting?
Motion to skip that. Second.
Skip. Reading the minutes because they're posted online, all in favor?
Yep.
Yeah, all opposed? We'll go right into the treasurer's report. So,
As of today, we have $180,583 in the general fund. There's $19,334.79 in the road fund. This month, we've already at this point brought in $10,560. Of that is between back dues, like lien fees, late fees, 7,147 of that is back dues, so we've already collected quite a few this month as well. For the year, we brought in a total of $77,508.88. Of that, $19,485.02 is back dues, liens, late fees. And then there's $4,502 that we've gotten from lot purchases, selling lots. So we've been pretty successful so far this year, getting a lot of back dues paid. We've just this month, I've had quite a few, and I know for a fact of some of the ones that sold at county that I've talked to 5 or 6 of them already, that as soon as the county gives them their deeds, they're going to then come and pay the back dues on that, and there's a good $10,000 or $12,000 or more worth there. Those people I've already spoke with that said as soon as they get their deeds, they'll take care of that. Expenses, $3,291 at this month, and now part of that is like insurance, $1,453 has been done. The electric bill, while it gets averaged, they do a whole average thing to cost. This month they do charge us extra, so it's $790. Basically, they do their fiscal year into June, so you have to, when they do that, they make you settle up at the end what you haven't paid out of the average. Typical security, we've had our typical security each month, $1191 at this point, but theirs stays pretty stationary. And they've done some road work recently that did some work. Overall, we're still a positive $44,000 on the year between what we brought in and what we spent. And we're still at a point, like I said, there'll be at least another $15,000 at minimum brought in this year, but I expect more than that. And what I got for you at this point?
Report, Rich.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, so 5-0. Financial reports, accepted. Rich? We don't want to go down right now. Okay, so then we'll go tools and parts. Keyless entry system hasn't come in yet. Still waiting on results from that. I did get an email from Board of Health, we have an annual inspection.
Talk with the microphone, we can't hear you.
Okay, so the keyless entry system for the pool hasn't shown up yet. It was back, I guess there was some confusion whether we really wanted to order it before and they canceled the order and then we got it reordered, so we're waiting on the second order of the keyless entry to come in. I did get a email from the Board of Health for an annual inspection on the pool. I need to call that guy back. I just got it, so he wants to set it up in the next 2 weeks. I don't know.
You might.
We're obligated to that.
We shouldn't be. It passed November 21st last year, but we're no longer monitoring.
Tommy, somebody, Tommy. That's the email. But like I said, I'll call and check on that. Find out what the deal is. And then I've got
Even if they complain, we're no longer, our pool's no longer regulated by the state of Oklahoma's health department by the rule that passed last year.
Tommy Fox.
Yeah, it's a lady, actually. She's the new health department for out here.
I'm a health inspector for the Oklahoma State Department of Health. Your office at Lake Kinkler are closed. Your pool is due for inspection within the next 2 weeks. Please call me at your earliest convenience. Schedule a time for someone to meet at the Lake Kinkler Harbor Pool. Get here something. And then as far as volunteers, I've got three volunteers to help me out with the pool to check chemicals, lock the gate at night, put the vacuum in.
Who are they?
All that stuff. So we got Sherry McCaslin, Steve Hall, and Mary Cook. And myself, of course, I jump up there. They've been,
I got Steve Hall, Sharon, who, McCass?
yes, Sherry
Sharon.
McCaslin.
Who's in there?
And Mary Cook. They've all been trained on checking the chemical levels, clean in, make sure all the safety equipment's in the place it's supposed to be. And been doing a really good job of keeping up on everything with my issues going on while I've been kind of in and out, so.
Are any of?
So that's pretty much it on pools. We'll move to roads.
I got a question real quick for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we doing the live auction, with the treasurer's report?
Yeah.
I thought we were doing that already.
I figured that'd be toward the end.
Well, we can't, I just put it in the agenda.
Yeah, I saw it on the agenda. I was like, do we want to do that right now?
Do we want to do it at the board or the BOA meeting?
Well, we'll do it at the end of the, I thought we were gonna do it at the end of the board meeting. That way we can get through this and then,
Sure, yeah, I mean, that's fine, I just wasn't sure. Okay.
yeah, I'm not gonna,
Okay, yeah, no, I didn't know if you
Yeah.
had the agenda in front of you or whatever, I was just making sure.
yeah. We'll go with roads with Jack.
I don't have anything. I know some of the roads took a beating on the rain. In my rain gauge, I've logged in over 12 inches down there, and trust me, we've been washed out in our house. So I'll have to look and see about renting some equipment and try to fix them, but there are a couple of roads I'm not sure on. We'll figure that out.
Get it on the list and I'll hook it.
I had a question, I don't know if we wanna try to like, maybe make, since we've had like a couple times where we fix the roads and then they just washed away right away, we might be good to like maybe make some kind of thing where we don't fix a road during like the wet season unless it's an emergency or.
Yeah, this one, I let somebody kind of pressure me. He was working kind of towards William and me, and I went ahead and, imagine we had like that in our town. I went ahead and had all that rock brought in. I was wanting to wait, and then all this rain, but you're absolutely right. It should be about this time of year, not earlier.
Yeah, anytime in the winter, like, cause I think we did some over the winter too, you know, or like right before the winter started and it was just like.
And, you know, and I've mentioned it online, all of our road issues is due to people not having either proper culverts or culverts are blocked or they don't have ditches.
For sure.
Every bit of it.
Totally.
And I can take you and show you every washout. and
Yeah,
where
it's
it
like that
started.
on my street too. I've seen you walk up where it's bad, just follow them all the way up to the top and you'll find out where it starts, yeah.
And on that, we have had a lot of people put in ditches, I mean, down Rimrock, Rifle Barrel, Crestview, people have really jumped in and started, and I'm sure there's others, but that's the ones I've visually seen just running around.
I think we need to put, like, if you're doing driveway or lot clearing, stuff like that on somebody that's got a new lot, there's no architectural control to do that. I think that needs to be added to it, just because we need to make sure when they're, they're putting a driveway in, they're not just going across the ditch. You have to put a tin horn in that driveway.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's so many people that just dump the gravel right across and boom, there you go, and then, people up the road got a tin horn, it comes down to yours, cuts across the road, washes the road up.
Yeah. So
We don't have
it
any
is a
requirement.
bylaw. It does say in the bylaws that you can't mess with the flow of water.
Right.
So,
I think
I
the
mean,
restriction.
I just don't know if we want to make it where, do we want to have a form for every bylaw? You know what I mean? Like to have me make approval for every single one of those things? Or just if we see it, we need to address it. I can address it later on in my part or something, but just as far as how we're addressing these violations, and start to collect money on that or how we're going to
part of that, in the restrictions, it does mention they have to put a minimum size tin horn if they put a driveway. So
So
they,
your only enforcement is a fine, or you said
warning's fine.
you know, warning fine, all that stuff. And
Right.
by the time you get through that process, gravel's down, you know, down the bottom of the hill. So,
I mean, I'm
but
fine
I
with
just think we need to, you know, need to be more aggressive on making that a requirement as, you know, as you're building the property up, that, you know, because I also don't agree with the size of the tin horn that's specific to the bylaw. That
Yeah.
says you have to put this size tin horn in. If I use that size tin horn on my driveway, I'm gonna dig down below the ditch,
Yes,
and then the water's got to fill up the tin horn before it'll flow out the other side.
Right.
So, you know, I don't know who the expert would be on what size tin horn you need for your ditch, but, I mean, if put that size tin horn over there by, was that Phillips and, Spanier Creek in that area, that ditch is so deep, that tin horn would do nothing. It'd flow away,
Yeah, it'll flow, yeah.
because, you know, the ditch is
So if
30
we were
foot
gonna
deep.
do that, I guess we have to revise the architectural form, because there's nothing on the form right now
Right.
about that kind of stuff. I could start drawing that up, and then anything moving forward, if somebody sends something, usually when I approve anything now, from now on, all I've done is say approved with conditions, and then it always says in there, that it has to follow all the restrictions and bylaws that are mentioned that pertain to your request.
Right.
So that way, whatever we're approving, it's
Yeah,
still
it ties into
on
it
that.
that way.
But we could add more to it. I'm not really sure how much further we need to go, or like, how we're gonna
Yeah, I'd say just like-
articulate that to everybody. We can send out a mass message that says, hey, if you're gonna
Look
do
into
dirt
it.
work.
The first step in all of this is how far are you willing to go to enforce it? I would imagine.
Well, we're putting thousands of dollars worth of gravel.
I don't disagree, but
Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
we've
okay.
already had pseudo issue with just enforcing casual, agricultural, and just general civility type stuff. And I'm not opposed to any of this or any of that, but it's just one more thing of enforcement we're gonna have to take on. Which again, I'm not opposed to, but that's what all this comes, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's.
is
that and
that
also-
the end of the argument at the end of the day, Mike? If you run the tape out?
It's that, and then it's also how are we addressing it, and that's where I try to see the mix up, is like who's doing what. And I've got this committee started, so far we haven't done too much with it, but, it's like, okay, so if we got some stuff, I need to be able to present it, and then we send out a notice, or who's gonna send out the notice, and then, obviously the treasurer will collect the money, but it's who's sending out notices, and my name, I'm up here with stuff.
I got you.
I'm sure everybody is, but,
Well, just flat ass spitballing, what do you think needs to happen? No judgment, no nothing.
yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense to not be reactive. I honestly think, and I've been thinking this for the past couple months now, because we have so much stuff that you guys and that I need to have done, that I think that it's a conflict of interest based on what I've talked to other people about, and they've been like, yeah, I don't think you can do that, and like work on the board, work here. We need somebody in that office that can do half of this crap all day long, like they can start filing the deeds, they can be like, answering the calls and taking these messages, or not calls necessarily, but there's just a lot of stuff that we're not getting done. It's like a full-time job, you know? And I'm trying to work my job too, but I kind of feel like we have enough money that we could pay somebody to work 20 hours a week and get some more of this done.
Do you mind if I cut you off and shelve you
That's
for
all I
about
was gonna
10
say.
minutes?
That's all I can say.
Well, let's get done with, this sounds like new business,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I want to discuss it, but let's go ahead and get out of the roads. It's kind of pertinent, but this sounds more like new business.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yes, sir.
Of the road, that's what we'll do on security basis.
Security, not a whole lot. I'm not Mr. Whatever. We got Feller Rockefellers shooting guns off on Fort Land, there's not a lot we can do about it. We can complain, we can shame them into being neighborly. Couple other, there's not a whole lot else. Don, do you have any remarks or anything you'd like to kind of have addressed at this moment?
There possibility we have a peeping Tom in the harbor.
I remember seeing a post about that. Where was that?
It occurred on Foxville. I'm not gonna give out any
Yes, sir.
names or anything.
Yes, sir.
But I got the information a day late, so there wasn't a thing I could do other than tell them, if there's somebody looking in your window, pick up the phone, call me. I'm less than 5 minutes away,
Call somebody, call Don, call.
you know. And if we find out who it is, sheriff will be down here in a heartbeat to pick somebody up like that.
Oh, yeah. There'll still be 15, 20 minutes to get down here. All right, keep your eyes out for any weirdos. Be a community about it.
What road was the gunshots?
Fox Hill.
The gunshots.
Gunshots, they're going on down
What road is it? The Low Sky.
below Skyview, it's down by my place. They just run across over to Corland. And I mean, there's not a lot, like, if you really wanted to make hay about it, sometimes they do shoot after hours and you're just gonna have a sheriff respond. Maybe a park ranger, I don't know how that'll work out.
Yeah. I think if it's.
It's how involved the sheriff wants to get, because it is technically federal core land, so it is jurisdiction of park ranger and whatnot, blah, 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 blah. But again, it's one of those things, if you know them, I think they're just young kids being young kids, whatever. You're bored out in the country, you go shoot shit, I get it. If you catch them, if you know them, if you, like, hey, just talk to them like people, like, hey, try not to be an asshole, be a fucking neighbor, good neighbor. Sorry for the language, but, don't be afraid to approach them, but don't be aggressive either. And just, a lot of us have to work. So, that's about all I got for security, unless anything else. Anybody want to bring anything up? I guess, well, sorry, we got a public meeting right after this. That we have time there,
We'll go
so-
through this again, so then you'll have opportunity.
Sorry, that's my bad. Motion to pass, or move on?
Architectural control.
Yeah, so I got the committee, I actually talked to him, wants to be on there that didn't get a message, he said, but, oh, sorry.
No.
So I'm sending, so I sent a couple things, and I just. Hello? Yeah, I'm just not sure how we want to move forward on who's going to, if I send a complaint, from the committee, who wants to send out the notice, and then after the notice, follow up, and then we'll start sending out the bills, for fines for that.
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm kind of slow. Will you catch me up on what you're talking about?
So we had a committee that we established at the
Yes,
last meeting, there was the last POA meeting, and those people are going to be actively looking around, and this one's actually doing that, and submitting things, hey, there's a violation here. And there's also one that I was gonna bring up personally, talked about, anyways, yeah, so I just can't do all of that.
So-
We've got the committee set up, and they can send a thing, who wants to send out the notice for you guys? And then, once we send out the notice, if we don't get anything done within a week, then we can obviously start sending out fines.
15 days by
Or
bylaws.
15 days, whatever it is, yeah.
Just so we're crystal clear, we need to organize something on this committee, sending something to the board on processing that in a timely manner.
Just we need somebody from the board to start sending out the notices. That's what we, like, I've formed a
Okay.
committee, and like I'm getting the stuff to pass. I'm doing architectural, and I'm doing the court stuff and whatever else.
That,
And everybody else is doing stuff too.
yep, I've got these on my plate, I'll volunteer. I will need help, I'll need my handheld
handheld.
Yeah, it's all, you just get an app fully of your.
And there's a part of that, I do want to carry on to that because there's important part to what you're talking about. Whatever they're going to say needs a fine, they do need to take a picture. Because when I was at the tax auction with William, I actually stopped and talked to a sheriff. Because we know a past board had issue where he was just trying to be nice and give someone he gave the warning notice on paper and he put it on their door hidden. And they actually called the sheriff and told them they were going to file trespassing on him.
Right, I talked to the attorney about that, and
So,
the attorney said that since you signed in your thing, and you'll agree to the bylaws, that you have to, they have to cater to us, and we can actually go on their property, because that's part of our thing, just like we can go on their property and clean it up, and that's trespassing too, we can also put a notice on their thing, and they can't do nothing about it.
So, and while I agree with you in what he's saying, because as I've done landman work, looking at deeds and deed laws most of my life, my grandfather's business, our restrictions are filed as zoning laws, and actually they're not even, while they are filed as zoning laws, they're specifically called deed laws. So even if someone just got rid of the POA, if they don't properly get rid of the restrictions first, they don't go away.
Yeah.
And then it's the county's problem, but that's a whole other thing. Talking with the sheriff, I basically I compared it to apples to apples in the aspect of you live in city limits, you don't mow or you do one of those things, the city comes and does that, and I'm like, that's trespassing then. He goes, yes and no, because he kept trying to argue at first, he goes, well, you're not the city. I'm like, that doesn't matter. And the reality is out here, your POA board is equivalent to your city board. I'm like, because they're filed there, and they say we have this right, and the reality is members do not have to sign. The second they put a deed in their name, because these are filed as deed laws, that's putting that property in your name as official signature. But under due diligence in court, but what the sheriff explained, he goes, I understand what you're saying. He goes, to make it easy to understand for anyone, he goes, the city does actually file court cases, like if they say a property hasn't been cleaned properly and they're gonna send someone to clean it, they do actually file stuff with the judge, so there is a legal paper trail, basically a civil case. And what he said, he goes, it's just that because they're the city, they get it done in a day. He goes, you guys, with the way your bylaws work, as long as you follow, you send your warning, you give 15 days, then you send a fine, then you can take that to a judge and say, basically, instead of a judgment ruling, he can give you a civil warning saying, yep, you guys have followed your things, your bylaws, restrictions, zoning laws say you are the ones to take action. Now judges state that say you can now spend that money and take action, and nobody can charge anything against you because a judge has signed off.
Yeah, totally, that's what the attorney said, but he said that we didn't have to worry about that no trespassing sign, our hands aren't tied there, we can go onto their property because they signed a thing saying that they obeyed the bylaws. So in order for us to do our part of our job, we can do that basically, and just, we can send that notice throughout Florida too.
Well, that's what I said,
Either way.
I would just make sure that committee, if they're gonna send those, make sure they have pictures so we can put it in the file. So
Sure.
like if we have to go to bat to go in with the judge to say, hey, do we have approval to clean this? He can see the picture of what we're saying is an issue. He can see, here's what the
That's
bylaw
fine.
says it.
Yeah,
Just so it
I'll
covers
even
the
personally
boards.
go take the pictures. So that's fine, we can move forward on that. The question is though, is who's gonna send the notice? You said you're gonna send the notice? And then,
I'm gonna need a little catch up.
Okay.
I've never done any of this stuff. I'm gonna need your help.
Yeah, hold it near me.
A month or two, I'm gonna need a little handhold.
Yeah, we'll start off slow, but either way, and then the other thing is, we said we would wait 90 days on that one up at the front. I think it's been
Oh,
120.
Yeah. Oh, that other one. Yeah.
So we're
What are you talking
gonna
about?
send a notice on that one too.
Fire.
But no, like I said, y'all have all, I've got the lease on my plate, so I've got no problem.
Okay. I appreciate it. I'll throw these up here for you guys to look at, I'm gonna pass these around. These are the different signs that I came up with that we can do for the new sign.
I don't want new signs.
There's also one other thing. I'll talk about this first. So if you look at all the other neighborhoods around the whole lake,
I'm sorry, weird autistic. Are we still in architectural or?
Yeah, I mean, this is architectural
Sorry,
stuff. I mean, you
sorry,
could say
sorry,
it's new
sorry,
business too, but I was just like, we're building stuff, but, all the other signs that are around the, harbor, or around the lake, they're all on the easements, they're not like way back into the harbor, like, we've got that lot that has the security shed, and it's got a sign there. And I don't know if we necessarily even need that lot, we don't need the security shed, because it basically says we don't, like, it's not active right there. But, either way, we'd be either swapping out the sign there, or I would be more for putting it up there at the road, where everybody else's sign is. If you look at Lakewood's sign, or, any of the other ones, like if you go around the other side of they're all up there in the easement, Barnesville Bills, any of them, they're at the very front. But, I'm gonna send those over for you guys to look at, and then I'll pass them around later, and then we can talk about that, but maybe it's new business, if we wanna try to sell that lot, and get rid of it, because what's the point of even having it? Like, it's either that or we're gonna make two signs, or something like that, but we really ought to have the sign up at the front of the road, and that's where everybody else's sign is
You
too.
just, the only problem is you don't have anywhere to put at the road, because that, where that road is, you either have my store.
No, it's up front of that, just south of that, on the other side of the road, just in the easement, we can put it there. Where that like cluster of all this crap that's out there right now, like all those signs that should be there.
Yeah.
We're gonna put our sign right
Yeah,
there,
you're talking
and
about
just,
the road.
it's gonna be like, bye, here's the sign.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
It just looks like garbage right there, nobody else's looks like that, and we also have that, we should be there. That's what I came up with. I was gonna basically pass that around, and each person at the POA can put their name on the one they like the most, and whatever one they like the most, I'll volunteer to make the sign, if we can pay for it, like if we're paid for that, I'm not talking about charging you labor, but I'll make the sign.
I'm kind of dumb on, how much do you think it costs to make a decent sign? $500?
No, we're gonna put posts in the ground and whatever, I don't know, 1,500, couple thousand.
1,000, 2,000?
I don't know.
Are you
I'm
talking-
not gonna spend.
I know.
Just to have experience having to have a sign built for a store, I didn't hear about having another one. Are you talking about like doing wood and having it painted for that, or are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking
having a
about
sign-
me do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it
We
from the
do
ground
it.
up.
Yeah.
It's not very much.
The
Yeah,
supplies.
it won't be that much, and I'm just saying, whatever it is, it's a business expense, we don't have to have a budget for it, and we're not gonna break the bank on it either.
Well,
We're not
yeah.
hiring somebody to do it.
Again, I'm just ignorant, I was just gonna throw the proposal, let's do a vote on, let's go ahead and vote on putting a sign up and then figuring out what. the
Oh, we
sign-
voted on the sign last.
Oh, okay.
last
Never mind,
week.
never mind, never mind.
Yeah, I sure just need to kind of nail down some cost on it, so we can inform everybody, this is gonna cost you $10,000, and it's gonna cost you $500.
I'd say it's gonna be under a couple thousand for sure, but, I just say that just so there's
Yeah.
no, I don't know why it would cost that much if I'm doing
I think,
it, like.
Motion
I'm
to
not charging
allocate
labor.
$800.
Huh? I just
$800
say a couple-
should cover everything,
Just say, yeah, I know, but just say a couple thousand, just say, so we don't,
Well,
I mean, I don't know, or if you wanna say less, say less. It's
Go
not-
ahead,
it's
go
not-
ahead.
I'm done,
Yeah.
I don't know what it
1,200
is.
bucks.
All right, hold on, go ahead and pass this around and do what you're saying,
Yeah,
and then we'll
Yeah.
figure out what people wanna see,
yeah.
and then we'll figure out, okay, roughly it's gonna cost us this much money, we'll allocate that way.
Yeah, I mean,
That
I
way
thought
we
they were
can be
just
upfront
gonna,
with the numbers about how much
we
we
can,
spend.
or we can just approve it, like, it doesn't have to have like a budget to it.
Yeah,
Why does it
it's,
either?
this is.
But like, we're just gonna do it, it's like, if we're gonna do the pool, we just do the pool, we don't say, well, we need to know how much the pool's gonna cost for the entire year first, we just do it, And I'm not gonna spend a bunch of money on everything, I don't even have a car.
Yeah, but
Everything I'm gonna
Motion
do
to
has to have
install a
permission.
$30,000 sign as long as I get.
Like,
I-
whatever it is, it's gonna look awesome, and it's gonna bring up the property value, so it's even like an
Yeah, we
investment.
still have to report to the members what we're spending on.
Yeah, we will, like after the fact.
Is it gonna be a
Or
double
we can
sided?
do it beforehand.
Yeah,
It'll be a double-sided sign, you think?
That's my.
Yeah, it's gonna be a double-sided one, a couple of those look like a badge, if we do that, I was gonna do like posts to hang, and then like chains that hold the badge thing up in the middle. There's one that, if you wanna see one that's similar, it's just like that, over there by McQuick's, or whatever it is. Go just past that, you'll see one that looks just like it. And then if you go around the lake on this side, you'll see multiple other signs that look real similar to all those too. So it kind of keeps that same vibe all the way around the lake. They look like park badges and stuff. And I think it'd be really cool and like more updated, modern, and there's not a bunch of like rules or anything else attached to it or anything that looks like that you don't see anywhere else, you know? It'll just look clean.
So I'm, like I said, I think just, like I said, pass that around.
Yeah.
You know, meeting, and we'll get an idea of what people want to see, and then
Okay.
from there on
Yeah.
cost, but
Sure.
that'd be it.
Yeah, I don't really have
And that's,
much other than that for architecture.
So,
Motion to accept architecture?
yeah, we're good.
Oh, that's
Like
the
the nomination. Did you have something else?
No, I was just reading on that. I had to sign off, it's an old business, but,
So
just
the-
went over that.
Discussion on the nomination committee, that never come to fruition, nobody volunteered. Election committee, same thing, I've only got one volunteer so far in the election committee, so I'm gonna ask again at the POA meeting. We need three people to sit on the ballot box. I'll feed you lunch.
I'm not making a wife. I'm off from Dalton over ass.
Swing them, I'll do it.
Okay, I appreciate it. And then, motion for rules pertaining to being qualified to be on the board.
Oh, yeah, that's just, based on what we saw, what the attorney said too, like, in order to be a member, you have to either have, like, if you're in contract, it needs to be filed with the county, it needs to be a contract for deed or a mortgage. And then, so if that's the case, and that's what the attorney said, then if we've got somebody that's wanting to vote to, or to be on the election, you know, or whatever, to be voted for, that they're gonna have to fall into that category too, so we'll have to verify that when we're voting for that person, that they have, that they are actually.
That's the way it's always been done, if the contract is,
That's what the attorney said.
yeah, is supplied to the, so if somebody has a contract on a property, the property owner, the seller, is giving up their right to vote.
Yeah, Ted, what you're getting at is it's happening on a lot of boards, that you have members that, once Bob is selling his property to Bill, once they reach an agreement by our bylaws, they immediately lose all rights on that property, including voting rights. Same thing, dues now go to that person. We've had a lot before that, where it's like, someone's selling it to someone and they're doing it just like a rent to own. What it falls under is that's happened for a long time, because our bylaws even say, once you reach an agreement to sell your property, you lose your rights to it, and the person that has agreed to buy it now hangs them.
Where's that at?
Where's that at?
It's in there, and I don't know the exact spot, but it's,
I've
I
got
had
it right here.
Hey,
I've
let's
got-
not go
so-
that easy. Let's not
Yeah.
make the assumption he's bullshitting. Let's
Yeah,
just
but
go
what-
to the
and
assumption.
what Mike,
Let's not make the assumption that I'm bullshitting you either.
no, but what I'm saying, I'm trying to explain for you, if you would calm down.
No, I'm just saying.
No, but I'm trying to help explain, so, because I see people confused on how you explained it. Is what Mike is saying is that the lawyer is saying, based on that, to make it a valid thing to cover the basis that you can file a rent-to-own contract with the county, so then it is listed basically essentially as a mortgage. He's just saying, according to the lawyer, any of those contracts to make them valid, so that it covers all bases, they need to be filed with the county.
And just to be clear, he said not filed as a rent to own. He said that when you're renting to own, so any of these contracts that he's seen or that we discussed, that they were rent to own, and until they decide, I want to own this, I'm gonna file a mortgage, or I'm gonna file a contract for deed, that they're just renting. And they can back out at any time. And that's the same reason, well, like, you could have somebody in here that says, hey, I'll rent you to own my property, I've got somebody out doing that with anyways right now. Now that person that's renting to own my property, he can't go take that and refinance it, you know, or like, put something down, like, you know, it's not recognized. That's just something like for an example, but that's what the attorney said. He said it's gonna have to be filed as a mortgage or a contract for a deed in order to say you've taken that next step and you're trying to be the owner, you know?
Just for clarification on my end, in that circumstance, whenever they have not reached that agreement, it is still, they're just or renting.
Yeah.
Does the person who is renting it to the rentee have voting rights? Or in that period of limbo, to your understanding from what the lawyer said, is it still kind of a wash as
In this scenario, so far, I haven't seen it where anybody, where the voting rights would be affected because the owners all own more than four lots. So it doesn't even touch that, you know? But what we're basically doing is we're giving out more votes for money. Basically like we're saying, well, if you pay us some more dues, we've got some votes for you, even though some of these people might really be here with the intent to own that property at some point, and some of the other people might just be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you know? Who knows? They're not really in it, and nothing's gonna go against their credit or anything if they back out.
I gotcha.
So I don't know. And it's literally the only thing that it says that I'm in charge of as a secretary is to make sure we have an accurate voting roll. Like that's the only thing it says if you look at my duties. It says to make sure that the secretary must make sure that there's an accurate voting roll. So I was just doing that, and I wasn't even looking at that. That came that was dropped into my lap, and I was like, wait, what? And I was like, this isn't for me to decide if this is cool or not. I need to bring this up to everybody, and you guys decide. And I'm not. If everybody wants to vote to do away with that rule or however that needs to happen, that's fine. I mean,
Are you saying the renter has no voting right?
no,
The renter has no voting
they're
rights.
not an owner. They're not classified as an owner.
Until there's an agreement made.
Well, I guess it would be a contract purchaser.
Yeah, until they've entered into a mortgage or a contract for deeds filed at the county, that's like an official thing. Until they've done that,
They're just renters.
there's just, like, they're renting to own, like they might, it's just like layaway. You know, you don't own that yet.
Yep.
You know, but you can back out and whatever, or like if I wanna go get a motorcycle and lease that, and like pay the end, pay for it at the end, that's cool, but there's nothing that's saying that I have to, and I'm not gonna lose out on anything if I dip out. You know what I mean? So I'd like to take the motorcycle back, but at the end, it's not like if I
You got no
lease
skin
that,
in the game
I
if
can
you got
start.
voting rights.
Yeah,
At the end of the day.
And I don't, yeah, exactly, and it's like, I definitely think that
See, the only
we should look at like the amenities, like the amenities part, they should definitely be able to have that if they're living here, you know, I think. And I don't think that that's really even something that states that they can or can't.
Well, the only issue with that though is you already have problems with quorums, for voting, and then you're also,
Exactly.
you have but I mean, that would make that worse because the person that's selling the property, they're selling it because they don't want it anymore. I mean, they chose to sell it the way they sold it. You know, somebody didn't get a mortgage or go out and get a loan or VA loan or whatever to buy the property, and they sold it however they chose to sell it, but they don't have interest in the community anymore. The person that's
Oh,
buying
yeah,
it.
that-
Until
some
the
of them
deed
do.
exchanges
Some of them,
hands.
yeah, some of them do.
So, like there's one, I've even specifically tried to buy this guy's property, that he's got multiple properties that he does rent to own, and he finds people that are gonna fail on it. And I can tell you that because I've seen some of the crap that he's tried to bring in, and he's like, oh yeah, you can bring whatever in here. Well, he does it, and I tried to offer to buy one of them, and he won't let me buy it because I'm gonna pay for it right out.
Because he knows you're
But
gonna
he
pay.
wants to bring in somebody who's gonna fail on it because then he made all that money and then kicks him out and starts over again.
Yeah.
And he's got, and so, I don't know, I don't know how we wanna deal with that, but that's not for the board to decide, like, we can't just start like dictating rules here. It really needs to be something that the community votes on, we need to have people show up to the meeting in order for that to happen.
Well,
But-
I've
but as
got
of
a
right
really
now, by the
important
rules.
point to bring up on that, though, is one of the important factors to that, because I know like when Susan, previous board member was here, like multiple ones that had filed that, so their copies are in the system, and I get what you're saying with that. The problem I see with it is, I know for a fact, there's 3 or 4 people that come to most of these meetings, are in that scenario. And it's one of those where you go, what William said, while you're, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but your in theory is you're saying if you fix that, now the 5% quorum goes down, it's a lower number.
It's weird.
But the problem, while that happens, is right out the gate, you're losing 3 or 4 members that are the ones that actually show up in here to these BOA meetings. They leave, and now you've actually lost. So while you lowered your number, you actually lost. And the reality is, most of those people, because we put them in Appfolio, since they give us a copy of your deed, they actually are paying the dues.
Right.
I'm
But we're
gonna
not
tell you,
supposed
but that's like, I'm just giving my thought on this thing.
Yeah.
However it gets voted on, I'm always told to everyone, if the members vote one way, whether I agree or not, that's the way it is, and I don't argue. But the point being is, we continually talk about we need more money coming in to do things. You already made the point, you feel we should have someone in that office. While I agree, it'd be great, financially, it doesn't make sense and it can't happen. While there is money in the account right now, and I agree, or I'm glad there is, and there's things I want to bring up in the BOA meeting to use on some of it, when you get to the aspect, now all those people no longer should be have been paying dues, given that's an issue between them and their contractee person. But if they're paying, if they're paying dues, they have the right to things. But now,
They shouldn't be getting
I'll-
the dues. They-
no,
that
and
needs to
I'm
be
okay
bid.
with the disagreement of opinion. I'm just
But
saying,
it's not- it's a
that
fact. The
it's,
attorney said it's a fact, like they shouldn't be in there and it needs to be fixed, and whether we like it or not, because somebody arbitrarily did that. And they weren't, like, they made that decision without getting approval of the members, they just made that decision, so.
This is,
And I don't like it.
I'm gonna jump in here. This is kinda where I'm at. Like, the rules are effing clear. You don't have a mortgage, you don't have a deed, you don't vote.
Right.
Right? That's the end of the story. We wanna change it, whatever, so be it. But as the rules are, that's the rules. Now, all the amenities and all that other crap, these people, I mean, the voting person, the rentee, the person holding the deed, they can still like, oh, you're my guest.
Yeah, they should
So
still
all-
be able to use the amenities.
I'm just trying to find a happy medium here. The only argument I'm hearing, or the only like unsettled little bit here,
So,
it is, hey, they want votes, figure it out with their land shark. That's their business.
there's that, and then
If they
also,
entered into a bad contract, they should have had a better lawyer.
I have a suggestion too for
Go
something
ahead.
that might fix all of this. I don't know if we can look at it like this, or what the members would say, or what. But, if we're looking at this as like a business expense, can we make that decision as a board? Or is that something that we need to bring to the,
My
The
gut,
members.
this is just my gut feeling. I don't like introducing restrictions to try and curb behavior. I'm like, I don't agree with the behavior going on that creates this mess. But I really, just my heart, where I'm at, I don't like putting in new laws, or new rules, or new anything to try and modify behavior to what I want. Not,
yeah,
that's just me.
yeah.
that also gets real hairy in the aspect of, if they're not voting rights, if they're not the ones paying the dues, in all technicality, they don't have rights to it, unfortunately.
And
That's, I mean, that, like I said, while I personally don't mind them using it, if they're renting someone, I really don't personally mind them using the trash, or that's whatever. But it's a case where people, I know people specifically in this room, they would argue they're not paying the dues and listed as if they keep using it.
I don't see why, I don't know if there's anything in there we could ask and look around in it. I didn't ask the attorney that. Is there anything in there that says that they can't pay the dues and use the amenities?
no, well, here,
Yeah, something
I'm-
like that?
this is just, I don't mean to interrupt, but just the way my rudimentary understanding of the law is going to be, is they don't have access to shit. Just on the face of it, because they're renting, tough titty. Again, we have certain allowances, I don't know the exactnesses of it, but guests can do this tit or tat. If this person renting all this shit is beyond their limit and they've signed a bunch of contracts, we're going to court, or not they're going to court, and that's their fucking problem at at the end of the day. And I encourage whoever's caught themselves in that situation, somebody loan sharking or land sharking or whatever, go hammer their fucking ass.
Well, I know for sure. that
And
there's-
I'll be all about like trying to help that process.
There's for sure like some kind of Oklahoma law that says that they have to disclose what the bylaws are, or like what the rules are if there is any. And there's
If everybody signed to it, they
there's
didn't
ones that
read
have-
their
there's-
shit, man.
No, there's ones that are saying that there's no rules. They're
Then
actually- hold on, hold on.
whoever presented that is in
Hold on.
fault.
Hey,
I know.
two,
But anyways, it's just going on.
2.02 in the bylaws, Article 2, Section 2.02, member shall be defined as any owner of one or more lots, and each purchaser under a contract to purchase one or more lots, with such contract then being enforced in Lake Tinkler Harbor subdivision. So they provide the contract to us.
I brought that.
But the
I
lawyer
brought that
said,
to the attorney. The attorney's been through this, all of them have.
That- yeah,
Looked
that's-
at that, and he said, no, that's just, you got some kind of contract, but as far as a contract for selling it, like, until they've filed a mortgage or a contract for deed, that they're just renting, and he would be willing to take that to court with us right now. That's what he already said.
and that's just my dumbass understanding of the law too, and I agree 100%.
Well, and that's what, I do understand the aspect of what he's, the part, while a lot of it, like, the ruining is why I see the issues. I do understand that's what he's saying is essentially, yes, a rent-to-own contract, there are ways to do them where they're legal. There are thousands of court cases where rent-to-own contracts hold up in court when someone violates it.
That
But
is
wait,
it's their business.
Right, I understand, but unfortunately, while it is their business, because even that says it, but where it solves it is like what Mike's saying, is they're saying they need to file what is called a contract of deed. And what it just shows, that takes us to court, so it's filed with the county where it says, once it's finished paying, they then get it, and they just have to show it to the court showing it.
Their name will be on it.
And it still works just like a rent to own, where if they don't finish paying, it becomes null and void. It still works the same way. It's just that they're saying, he's saying, the lawyer's saying that there needs to be a contract of deed filed.
And when you look it up on county records, you can look it up with their name, and it'll be on there too. It won't just be that real owner, it'll have both of the parties' names. And it's this huge deal, like, the neighbor of my mom, they're dealing with that same thing, and when you get into one like that, the owner and the seller, like the buyer, that, like, they both know, like, when you do that, like, it's a serious deal, because it's real hard to get that other person off of that. If they default on it and some stuff, it's like a nightmare, and so, like, to get that other person off if they just MIA.
The difference is that they have to file a foreclosure in court in order to get them out of there. Whereas if it's just a rental, they just walk away.
So it's a different
That's
thing.
why it's more of a concrete thing.
I'm not, I just, from what's been presented here and everything, like, if people are caught in a fucking situation, it's because somebody presented the contract, the bylaws and contract wrong, either out of ignorance or out of malice, or somebody didn't do their due diligence. Either way, that is 100% their issue to figure out. I'm more than willing to like try and throw whatever support, like, hey, our board lawyer has looked at this and this is what he says or whatever, but that's like, if somebody's going around like, yeah, you can rent to own this and you can use all this shit under my name and blah, 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 and that's a lie, that's their butt in court. And I think they should be, like, I think I would be all about somebody getting hamstrung. And all my sympathies goes towards it, but
Right.
so far as getting them
No,
involved.
we close.
Alright, sorry.
No, I think that's a good discussion. We need to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, and like I said,
I don't
until
think
we,
it's gonna happen
until we get
today.
to the bottom of it, all I was gonna do is announce that, like, at the meeting, once we got the whole group here, for everybody, if they're in that situation, for them to submit their agreement on Appfolio, we can put it with their thing, and we can go from there. You
Right,
know?
because I know they require that before.
Yeah.
For a fact, even to be on the
So
board,
it's
I
easy
know they
enough to-
require that of people before they. All right, so anything on new business?
I'll have 3 things, I'll bring them more up in thorough in the POA meeting, but it's just because I think we need to push on some foreclosures. At the end of the day, they're gonna be, you're gonna spend money and you're gonna break even on it, which you're never gonna get to do. Some of those is just, I think when you spend the money to do these foreclosures on these ones that owe a lot, the reality is it's only what's happened. Otherwise, Mike has found on some of these, he's found the actual owners, and it's not gonna be a simple civil case anymore. It is going to be an actual lawsuit. But I think we're at a point we need to do those. So it also shows them people in the community that the board is saying, if you're not paying them, there's consequences. There'll be that. The other one is the horse cleanups, which gets into the cleanup committee. And that's that same thing where you show the bylaws, you file a civil suit, which costs $20. You file that, show the judge that, they stamp it, then we can actually spend the $2 or $3 grand to have these lots cleaned up, and we can put the money on them. They don't pay it, we can foreclose
I've said
it.
that before, follow your paper trail.
Yeah, like I said, but that does it.
Your warning, your time, go to court, get a judge to order you, allow you to go on that property.
Yeah, so I'll have those two I'll bring up. And from there, the only other thing I bring up, it would really fall into is the roads. It falls back an issue of, while the ditches are the owner's responsibilities, we all know it, we're at a point something's gotta be done. Because otherwise, even if we're writing them up, I think we're at a point to write them up, but we're still gonna have to go up there and clean them, otherwise we're pissing away our money to spend fixing roads, unfortunately.
I said that before, I got yelled at for saying I was gonna,
Yeah.
old abandoned property, they're gonna dig 10
I know.
holes, we're all plugged up, and I got my ass chewed.
Yeah, yeah.
But I still think we should do that. If somebody's not keeping it, yank it sucker out, put it in their
Yeah.
yard.
But
I'm sorry.
we can go over those in the PO meeting.
It costs tax money.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the board meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Marty, go check it.